just mute myself because no one wants to hear from me.
Oh, stop. Just come and join.
Well, Dana, it's a pleasure to meet you. I watched Reflect this morning. I absolutely loved it. I mean,
Oh, thanks.
it wasn't what I expected because when I read the plot, it sounded like it was going to be a straight up like horror flick of sorts with the
Yeah,
sci-fi edge, but I'm glad it did not turn out the way it did, and that's what I really liked.
I tricked all of you.
Yeah, you did, but you did, but it's a good trick. So just remember that. Keep that in mind.
Yeah,
So my
thank you.
first So, and before I talk about the movie, I just saw you in another film that's coming out next week, a little
Hell
film called Hellhounds. I just watched
no.
that a couple of days ago. You were awesome in that as well. Just
Oh, thanks.
record. So, my first question is, how did you come up with the idea for Reflect?
So a lot of different things happened. I think it was a mix of my one friend, Michael Marino. He's a director, and he told I wanted to make films, and he was like, "Well, just make a story about five girls going on a trip or to the desert or something." So that clocked in my head. And then, of course, I took a lot of inspiration from my own life, and I wrote this very fast. I was reading Carl Jung's The Red Book, Maureen Murdoch's Heroine's Journey. I think I just really wanted to make a film about spiritual stuff. I don't see that many films, and I'm like a spiritual junkie, and I watch films to like learn the mysteries of the world. So I kind of just wanted to make like another one of those for people.
That's quite interesting. I also
Yeah.
got a bit of a midsummer vibe, if you will, to that to parts of the movie because the way the girls are dressed. And
Yeah.
I know it's a retreat, but that's the vibe I got. Like, all right, it feels a little like midsummer, but it's not. Obviously, it's not because
Yeah.
we already know how that ended up. But you know,
Yeah.
but it was also quite fascinating how we have these five characters and they finally, they seem to be best friends, but yet they harbor all these little secrets under the surface. And the
Mhm.
retreat is the way to unleash those secrets to let everything out.
Yeah.
And I love the complication with the relationships between some of the characters, including yours.
Oh.
I, no offense, but your boyfriend in the film was a total expletive. But
Yes.
what was it like working with the four other girls on the film?
Yeah, I mean, they're all my friends in real life. The girl that played Nia, I had just met through another friend, but it was really fun working with all of them. And it's funny you say the midsummer thing. So a lot of everyone says that. The funny thing is, like, I wasn't even really thinking of that when I wrote the film. Um, so there's a lot of symbolism with white and red, and in the Hermetic and mystery schools. And I kind of was just using that for the divine feminine in my film. Maybe Ari Aster was using the same thing, but it ended up like that, and that's a great thing to, for people to compare it to, even though it's not like it. So if that gets people to watch, great. But yeah, it was really fun working with my friends. It was the most like carefree, fun, freeing experience I've had on a set. Yeah, it was just it felt easy because we were just doing our thing.
And I
Yeah.
like the fact that there were little bits of comic relief in a way, because although this is supposed to be a serious film, I like the fact that we have first like the new so-called host who's like
Hmm.
watching everything. Like he was pretty funny because he was like he
Yeah.
didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
The character of Hermes was like one of the most hysterical people in the film, in my opinion.
Yes,
Like he nailed it. Like
he
just the way he
did.
presented himself. He was like he reminded me of those over religious cult leaders, like over
Yeah.
zealous cult leaders, and and then you had the three goths.
Yeah.
Those guys were hysterical as well, especially
Yeah.
Moon, because Moon is like, I know she like reveals certain things, but she does it with such like comic relief. Like I was laughing at the way she was talking and the dialogue. So it was that something you brought, like you knew like right away what you wanted to do, or is like you got their input, the actors' inputs on that, on how they give the roles.
Yeah, yeah. So I think she did improv the like middle finger up, which I thought was hilarious. A lot of it besides that was written, but with them in mind. So like Maya Nell is going to be a famous comedian one day. Like she's going to be in huge comedy movies. I can just see it. She is brilliant. She played Moon, and I had her in mind when I was writing it. She gives a great dry delivery. Obviously, Dash Cat, he's a friend of mine. He was on the Squid Games reality show. He did a great job. And then as far as Hermes, I had met Joe Philpone at like a horror show thing or convention or something, and I was like, that is Hermes. And he was just so like obtuse and out, like no one else could have played Hermes. Like I feel like if anyone else played him, it would have been so much more corny, but he really like helped the lines land. So yeah, all of that was kind of planned. I wrote it with all of those people in mind. And I think it just reflects how in life, like life is serious, but it's also like, comical and weird at times.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I love how once everything starts really coming into motions, you get to see like the past of these friends and the way it's reflected and whatnot. I love seeing that. I love seeing how their past demons are going to catch up to them in the worst way possible. And it reminds me of like films like recent one was The Call that came out a couple of years ago, where
Mhm.
these kids like pranked a woman and the woman ended up committing suicide a year like a little bit after her
Mhm.
husband sends them to their old house, and they get this mysterious phone call and they end up fighting their own demons that
Mhm.
was brought out. And so it reminded me of that as well. So I like the
Funny.
fact that I love those type of elements in the film too, because it really like brought everything together.
Thank you. Yeah. It's funny you say that. I feel like that's just a reoccurring theme with life in general, is your demons always come back, right? That's why they're called demons. And I kind of crap, I'll give it away if I say what I was about to say. Because I don't want people to know like what the shadow figures are. But yeah, I can't say anymore.
They're like the represent. I think they're like you could say they're like the representation of the demons. That's how I would picture. That's
So
how
what
I
it
would
what it
put it.
really is here, I'll say this. You know what? I'll just say this because I want people to know like my take on it. It's a projection of your inner self, and your demons outside are projected from inwards. So in all these movies and all these scary movies where there are these ghosts and demons, I mean, in my mind, I think, it's all our inner selves projected outwards. And, who's really making these demons? Is it out there or is it coming from in here? And once we conquer this, I don't think it's going to be out there anymore. You kind of like fuse back together with your darker self and you become a well-rounded person again.
Yeah. So how
Yeah.
long did production take, and were there any complications that you faced during production? And the way
Yeah.
you face, I'm guessing there was plenty.
Yeah, indie film. No, it's definitely some type of cult, us indie film people, because it's very stressful and you only get it once you've been through it. But yeah, so it took about 21 days of filming altogether. I think we filmed 14 in Sedona, 2 in Palm Springs, 2 days in Los Angeles, then came back for pickups in Sedona, Arizona for a couple days, and got some B-roll. And yeah, the complications. So I did have a DP before Bernie for the first couple days, and that did not work out. But I learned how to like assert myself and set boundaries, which was great. And it rained one of the days where we were going to shoot outside in Sedona, and it ruined like all of my. So the scenes where they're in the womb and Mother Earth's womb, I
Yeah.
rewrote that all that morning of shooting because we had to create the scene that was by the tree and make it something else. So we had people run to a fabric store and we built that all that morning. I rewrote all that scene and just like made
Wow.
something new, and we filmed it that day. So yeah, that was crazy. I was not expecting that.
That's awesome. But overall, this was a fantastic movie, and I'm going to
Thanks.
highly recommend it to people. Like you all need to see this one. This is not what you think it is, but
No.
in a good way. But a great job on that. Are you planning to direct again? Do you have something else in mind?
Yeah, my next film is called Inanna. It's based on the descent to hell of a Sumerian goddess. It's the first story of resurrection like ever recorded. And it is about, once again, the divine feminine and grief and loss. It's also about the apocalypse and a plasma wormhole. So I think it's a lot of interesting things mashed in a film, and it's uniquely me and complex and weird. And I can't talk too much about the premise, but I'm planning to film that in the summer. So I'm very excited about that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm gonna tell you something. Next this Tuesday is Dana Kippel Day. Seriously, because
Yeah.
not only does she have Reflect coming out, but she also got a little horror film called Hellhounds that's going to be released on the same day. And I
Yes.
saw both films. I'm recommending them because one side you get to see her as this embittered woman going on a retreat with her friends, but on the other hand, you get to see her as a badass bounty hunter
True.
alongside a werewolf. And funny enough, you're also going to see Nathaniel Burns in both movies, so look out
Yes.
for that as well. Because he
Yes.
made a little cameo as Geppetto. He was really good in Reflect, but he's the big good guy in Hellhounds. So
Yeah.
check out both of these movies on Tuesday when it comes out. And Dana, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about the film.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I had fun talking.
All right, take care.
Yes, bye. Have a good day.